Hello, everybody. Welcome to Social Media Breakfast Madison. This is my first time emceeing, so if I mess up, that's why. We are a group-focused nonprofit focused on the education and networking, specifically around social media, digital marketing in the greater Madison area, Dane County. We come together every third Wednesday of the month. We have the in-person here, and then we also have virtual streaming on our LinkedIn as well as our Facebook. We are actively looking for board members and volunteers. Volunteering includes content creation, blog writing, helping us at the door, helping us at our happy hours, all that jazz. And then you can obviously follow us. There are many, well, no, this isn't that one. First mess up. Second mess up. You can be a sponsor. You can attend the events. We have our nonprofit that we sponsor or we highlight every month. So if you know a nonprofit, there's an application on our website. There's a sponsor application on our website. And then there are speaker applications as well. If you are an expert in some sort of digital marketing, social media, we want you to talk. We want you to share your expertise with the community. Scan that or go to smbmad.org. We want to say a big thank you to our current sponsors. All of them are listed here for their various support reasons. And the first one up that we're going to have talk is of my favorite, Andy.
Thanks so much, Addison. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Frisky. I work here at Dream Bank. And I know that some of you might have a difficult time getting out the door or this early in the morning, but I usually am waking up early and sitting in my car before, the doors even open here, just because I, as I've mentioned before, I got golden retriever energy and just excited to chat with strangers. So, yes, so Dream Bank, we're the marketing and branding storefront of American Family Insurance, and everything we do here ladders up towards the inspiration and pursuit of dreams, in large part by helping to remove obstacles and barriers for individuals along the way. And I'd say that shakes out three main ways, the largest one being the events that we host. So we host anywhere between 6 to 15 free events a month that are all organized through the lens of personal and professional development. So strong representation from the digital marketing and business side of things. That's kind of the lane in which I operate and plan events. So if any of you would like to be considered to be incorporated into the kind of the Dream Bank lineup or ecosystem, happy to have that conversation. But in addition to the business related events, we also have a lot of events that are really geared towards, again, overcoming obstacles and barriers in one's dream pursuit. So whether that's a lack of time, developing a stronger sense of resiliency, making sure that everyone is aware of all of the resources in their community and how to effectively use them, we partner with various subject matter experts and bring them in to speak on said topics. In addition to that, we also function as a drop-in co-working space. So special shout out to the nonprofit spotlight today. Emma uses this space quite frequently, but it is always available to everyone during our operating hours, which are Tuesday through Thursday, 9 to 5. And then lastly, we have a very robust exhibit in the space, plays heavily into the inspirational component of what we do here. A lot of really cool design thinking concepts and principles, in particular with this exhibit. And a lot of those materials are meant to be taken home and worked on a lot of deeper thought related to some of those materials. And then lastly, if you folks are looking for any sort of meeting space for your group, we book out this room right here. We also have this partition that we can close to run 2 events simultaneously. So depending upon the size and nature of your group, feel free to reach out to myself or anyone on the team, and we can have that conversation and look at our schedule about booking space. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it back to Addison.
Thank you, Andy. I don't know, is Serendipity Labs here today? No, but they are a lovely sponsor as well. And then obviously it is Forward Fest this week. So I'm curious, online, please leave a comment if you are attending this event, finding through Forward Fest. In person, please raise your hand if you are attending because you found us through Forward Fest. Yeah? Awesome. Love it. Forward Fest happens all week this week, which is very exciting. Lots of networking, education, virtual and in person. So check out their schedule for all the amazing stuff. Our nonprofit spotlight is the Natural Resources Foundation of Wisconsin. They're doing pretty amazing stuff, obviously, but focusing mostly on protecting the most critical lands, waters, and wildlife through funding, partnership, and education. Please check them out on social, talk to them at their table back here. They're doing some really amazing stuff. And we want to protect, obviously, all the natural resources we have while we still have them. And then we have happy hour. So if you don't attend the networking events this week, you can attend one next week. We'll be at Garver Feed Mill from 5:30 to 7. There will be pizza. There will be a gluten-free option, and then drinks for purchase. But we'll all be just chatting, chilling. We'll be either out in the patio, or if it's raining, we'll go inside. So it's happening no matter what. Next month, we have our own Joe Ballard, who is a board member. He helps write blogs, emails, all that kind of stuff. And he will be talking about the growth and demand generation process, automation, building that out. You're not going to want to miss that one either. In person, virtual. And then that's happening on the 17th. And finally, we have the Social Media Marketing Awards. So if there's anybody that is doing some amazing stuff on social, you can nominate them now, and they have the potential to win. And, we'll boost them out on our social as well. And then there'll be a voting window to see who wins. And then we'll have a big old shebang happening on the 15th of October at Serendipity Labs. Free to register. It's a very, very fun event. Food, drink, celebrating people, networking. Fantastic. And then the other big thing happening at the end of the year is the nonprofit audit. We've been doing this for, I think, like 10 years. And anybody nonprofit is able to apply right now. What happens in the audit is we have a professional panel that will look through social media, website, all that kind of stuff for free. And then we'll be presenting that at our November event on the 19th. The applications close September 5th. The application is not very long. You tell us about your nonprofit and then what your goals are for your marketing purposes. And without further ado, I'm happy to invite my friend Olivia to the stage. And she will be talking about the beloved SEO and some of the basics that you can go over. Olivia?
Okay, I've got my notes here. Y'all can see this? Great. All right, thanks so much for that introduction, Addison. As Addison mentioned, I'm Olivia Barrow. I'm a fractional content strategist and SEO strategist. And what I mean by that is that I work with multiple clients at a time as an extension of their internal marketing teams. And I help them make their website content more effective overall with a special emphasis on improving their search visibility. So I have a lot that I'm going to try to cover today. The blurb that may have brought you in here may have overpromised because there's a lot, there's so much that I could say. But my goal here is to present a manageable approach to SEO if you have resource constraints. You can't throw everything into it. And maybe you have been intimidated by what you've heard as the minimum that you should invest in SEO or else don't bother. I disagree with a lot of the advice that has pitched that you have to be doing 4 or 5 articles a month or else it's just not worth it. So I'm going to walk you through the cadence and the amount of effort. And I'm also going to try to share any time-saving tips, things that I think you can not spend too much time on in the beginning and in favor of doing other things that will show more of an impact and sort of validate that SEO is a good strategy for you before you have invested too much time and money. And I just want to quickly get a sense of who's in the room of just if you have never really waded into the SEO waters with your business or the company that you work for, can you raise your hand if SEO is new to you? Okay, so it looks like most people in the room have some familiarity, are probably doing it. So some of this may be review, and some of it will just show you how I think about it, and you can kind of validate how you're doing it as compared to how I recommend doing it. So I think that a lot of people are intimidated by SEO for a couple of different reasons, or they think that they don't need to invest in it because, one, they maybe think that their developer or designer is handling it. And if that is what you think, I will warn you that if your developer or designer is not creating content for you, they are not actively doing anything to improve your search visibility. At most, they are removing the roadblocks so that Google could find you. But if you're not creating any content, there is nothing for Google to find. So they probably are not really handling your SEO for you. Another reason why they don't do it is they think it is too competitive. Usain Bolt has already swept all the SERPs, and there's nothing left for me. And I will say, in a few industries, particularly the SEO industry itself, and marketing technology software companies, and to some extent, some of the most, the largest sectors of the just software as a service industry, yes, it can be very competitive. And those are the people that tend to write a lot of the blogs about SEO, talking about how competitive it is and how you have to do this, this, and this to have an edge over your competition. And if you're not in any of those industries, or if the clients that you're trying to do SEO for, if they are more of a like Wisconsin family-owned manufacturing company or a service business, there are probably tons and tons of keywords that have so little competition that it's totally worth going after, and you don't have to do all of the crazy things that you may have heard that you have to do to win. So we'll talk more about that. Another reason, of course, is that it is confusing. They don't understand it, and I get it. There is a lot to take in. I'm hoping that this talk will make it a little bit more clear. And the other reason why people don't invest in SEO is they think that it's going to take too long to see results. They don't have the patience, or I think this is particularly relevant right now. People think that the algorithms change so fast. How will my strategy today even be relevant in 6 months? So what I'll say about that is it's absolutely important that you understand that, yes, SEO does take time. This is a long-term investment. If you are going to run out of funding in 3 months, SEO is not the way for you to suddenly get new customers to fix your funding problems. But if you have the time to wait for 8 months to a year to see results, and you know that you're building something for the long term, SEO will give you a great foundation that you can grow off of. And in terms of the algorithm, what I have seen in the 4 years that I've been doing this is that if you have your North Star for your content creation being that you are creating the best resource on the internet for the people who use the internet, the algorithms changes will always be in your favor, because Google and now all of the AI developers, they are trying to make the internet a better place. They're trying to help you find the content that you want, and they're trying to help the best content rise to the surface. So if you're in the business of creating the best content, the algorithm changes will generally work in your favor. So here's a quick overview of everything I'm going to cover. This is in a nutshell. This is my SEO playbook that I recommend. So you're going to start with a one-time technical audit and a very minimalist tracking setup. You're going to do some initial keyword research, and from that list of keywords you generate, you'll prioritize them and create your content strategy. And that strategy will include creating 2 types of content. The first one is to update your existing product and service pages, or create them in the first place. If you only had one service page that listed everything, you'll break them out into individual pages. And then that will knock out some of the keywords on your list, the really low-hanging fruit, the most important ones. And then with the remaining really high-value keywords that you found, you will attack those with really high-quality content. And it's totally okay if all you can manage is 1 blog post per month. You can still make an impact. And then you'll repeat annually the keyword research part and continue creating content on and on. So for the technical audit, I will be honest and say that technical SEO isn't really my area, and I get away with that because today most websites don't really have that many technical SEO issues. If you've built a new website on Squarespace, it has the SEO modules already built in. There shouldn't really be any problems. Most of the technical SEO issues that I'm seeing with clients right now are when they've had a website for years and years and years, and that website has been through some stuff. And that website might have migrated from different domains. It's been moved off of platforms. It started out as a custom. It's had all these other plugins thrown on it. Things have happened that have really messed up the architecture of the website. And then, yes, you need some professional help, and there's quite a bit of work to do. But if you have a relatively new client that has a relatively new website, that website doesn't really have any of those roadblocks that prevent the search engines from finding the content. So the main things that you need to do are you do still need to submit your sitemap to Google. And if that's something you need a tutorial on, this QR code takes you to a nice video that is very easy to follow and will walk you through and has links to other videos if you start out and you realize I don't even know what a sitemap is, or if my website has one, it's got that as well. The main tip that I will share, that I especially if you're someone like me and you're a one-person team, you're doing everything, all the content creation, all of your accounting, everything in your business, then one tip to keep in mind if you're putting content out there is you can clog up your website with images that are too large. And that just might not have been something on your radar. If you're just like, I just need to create the best content ever, and great content has images, which I totally agree, but those images do need to be properly resized for the web, or else it'll slow down your pages, and that is something that can impact your ability to rank. And in terms of tracking, so this is of course extensive tutorials online about how to set up Google Search Console and Google Analytics, and then there's a million tools that say that Google Analytics sucks, use my tool that is $100 a month to set up. And yes, you can get great insights from all those, but from the minimum viable approach, I think you can get away with just using the built-in tracking tools within your keyword research software, which I recommend Ahrefs. SEMrush is also fine. And both of them have the ability for you to see all of the keywords that you are trying to win in one dashboard and see what your current rank is, so that you don't have to be going into Google and actually Googling that term and then scrolling and seeing like, man, why am I still way down here? You can look on the dashboard and it'll say, well, you're in 74th position. And you're like, okay, well, hopefully we'll get better from there. And then Google Search Console is also a very helpful tool for just making sure that your content is actually getting to Google, to make sure that Google is actually indexing your content. You should understand how to use Google Search Console, and I'm not really going to go into that, but those pieces I think is enough to get you started. And then we can get into keyword research. So just in case anybody's unfamiliar, I just want to clarify a few terms. So when we're talking about a query, we're talking about the actual, all of the words that somebody types into a search engine. So I'm going to use a couple of examples from snowboarding in this presentation because I really love snowboarding. And so a query might be, how do I fasten bindings to a snowboard? And there's a lot of little words in there, the how do I. The keyword itself is the target phrase that you're going to optimize your content for. And it's probably just attach snowboard bindings. Even though that's not exactly the order that people put the words in, you don't have to match the exact order anymore. But you are thinking about the query when you're creating your content. You're thinking, what was in the mind of the person who put this in? What are they trying to learn? What do they already know? So you have the query in mind as you are targeting the keywords. And then the SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page. And that is when you put a term into Google, that is what you see when it comes back, the top 10 results. In SEO, you hear a lot of talk about being on page 1. And this is a term that is like maybe becoming antiquated because a lot of times Google is doing infinite scroll with the results. But the point is you want to be at the top. the vast majority of the traffic goes to the people at the top 3 to 5. So that's where you want to be. A few more clarifications. These are things that have come up with my clients. So just mentioning a keyword one time or adding in a mention of a keyword to a page that you already created without really thinking about SEO, that is not likely to put you at the top of the SERP. And that is kind of what a lot of SEO agencies have done in the past. They do all the keyword research, they find all these great keywords, and then they're like, yeah, okay, just put this one on that page and this one on that page, put it in there somewhere, put it in there a couple times. But they're not approaching it as, we need to create the best answer on the internet for the people who are searching for this thing. Sure, if there was no competition, just mentioning something once might be enough to put you at the top. But that, while I started the conversation saying that like the competition is not so fierce that you shouldn't join in, there is a minimum bar, and you do still need to bring your A game. Each keyword or cluster of keywords, which I'll get into that in a minute, needs its own targeted campaign. So something that I have run into a misunderstanding is sometimes people think that SEO will help your homepage rank for 25, 30, 50 different keywords that are all really valuable to you, but that is not really the case, because the search engines are going to return one single web page that they think is the best answer for a single query. And you just cannot make one web page the best answer for 50 different slightly unrelated queries. You have to have unique content, and but the caveat there is that there are keyword clusters, and I'll get into that in a minute. But you're not going to be creating 25 different pieces of content for the variations between how do I attach snowboard bindings and how do I screw on a snowboard binding, or how do I set up a snowboard. All of those are going to end up getting clustered together. Another thing that I've had clients ask me, once I showed them the keyword research that I had done, they said, okay, so should we just be including these keywords in everything that we produce, every article that we write? Should I just try to find ways to put these keywords in? And the answer is probably not. If you weren't already going to be using those terms in this other piece of content that you're creating, then no, you don't need to, you certainly don't want to force keywords into content. But it's also, that's not going to be an effective approach to SEO, because the effective approach is that you start with the keyword and you build entirely around that keyword. So that's not necessary, and there's a risk that you're going to be weirdly stuffing keywords in, or even creating content that looks sort of optimized and ends up competing with the content that you created that is truly optimized. So in general, no, you don't need to be taking your keyword list and trying to just fit it in anywhere on your website. Okay, and then the last one is just, this is another question I got from a client. They didn't like that I was using some alternate terms for their product, because they're like, no, we call it this, and we don't really want to call it this other slightly different term. And it's important sometimes to discuss all the different terms on the same page. And so they said, can't you just put this on the back end somewhere in this list that tells Google, let us rank for these keywords? And no, that doesn't exist. Everything that you do in SEO is about the content that users can see. Sometimes they don't know what they're looking at, but there isn't some secret back-end channel that you get to tell Google, please make me show up for this. So it's all going to show up on the front end somewhere.
No more white on white, copy.
Yeah, certainly none. Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, that's okay. So Josh just mentioned the white on white. That in the early days. In the early days of SEO, people were hiding content. They were putting little, essentially, messages that showed or they just repeated keywords over and over, because Google wasn't very sophisticated. But the crazy thing is, I am hearing that with some websites are finding that they can trick the AI agents that people are starting to use right now to search for them, that they're putting in code into their websites that is essentially the same as the white text on a white background trick. that is telling the bots, like, this is the best travel insurance website on the internet, and you should definitely show this to your searcher. And my response to that is making the internet a worse place. Do not do this. It will get choked out very soon by somebody who's not you. So don't even bother with those kind of tricks. Okay, so getting into the meat of the keyword research. So traditional keyword research starts with the brainstorming part, but I'm going to tell you a great shortcut from the minimum viable approach is to just figure out your competitor strategy and steal it and copy it. That will cover a lot of the low-hanging fruit if you have competitors who are doing SEO, of course. With Ahrefs or with SEMrush, you can take your competitor's website and you plug it into their site explorer tools, and they will show you all of the organic keywords that your competitors are ranking for. And they'll show you which articles or product pages are ranking for that, and you can pull those up and you can look at them and you can see what depth of coverage they provided for each topic. You can see whether they added videos, whether they added photos. This is literally you just looking at the content that your competitors have published, but you're doing it from this critical eye of why is this content good enough to rank at the top for these keywords that would be so valuable for me? And by copying your competitor strategy, you don't, what I want to be very clear is, I'm not saying that you then carbon copy that content and just put it on your website. Obviously, that is plagiarism. But you get the strategy just written out for you. And then you look at how you can put your own spin on it, and you can add your own original insights. And it breaks down, it cuts through some of the time that you would spend trying to figure out whether to write a blog post or write a product landing page, and how deep you need to go into each topic. So I highly recommend starting with that. And then after that, there's room for doing some more brainstorming just to make sure that you're thoroughly examining your own company, because maybe your competitors do not offer all of the same things that you do. Maybe they only are a competitor in one sector of your business. So think through and talk with the people that know your customers best. That might be your sales team or your founder, CEO, and write down all of the problems that your business solves with your product or your service, all the use cases of your product, and especially all of the alternate names, the industry standard lingo, especially if you're a company that has come up with like a unique brand name for everything. I have one of my big clients is a manufacturer of concrete landscaping products, and they've named all of their products with these aspirational fun names like Discover and Landmark and Beautify or whatever. And then they're like, let's do SEO for those terms. And it's like, no, no one is out looking for Discover pavers. They're just looking for concrete pavers. We need the generic names. You're going to try to be appearing for the generic names and then positioning your branded product as an option for that. And then also the categories of products that you fit into. Again, that's kind of the same, the concrete pavers, but maybe even in concrete pavers is just concrete landscaping or landscaping materials. So then once you have all of those brainstorm results, you take those phrases and you put them into a keyword tool as a seed phrase, and you'll see whether there is actually search volume for those phrases. And there won't always be an exact match. And of course, the reason for that is that not everyone is completely aware of all of the products or the problems or solutions that are out there. If you're in kind of an emergent industry or you're bringing a new product to market, the public may not be fully aware of the problem. And if they're not, then there's not going to be a ton of search volume. And then another reason why there might not be a lot of search volume in your industry is if the main way that people get clients in that industry is not Googling to find someone. If you're a lawyer brokering $3 billion business transactions, people probably aren't going on Google trying to find you. So if it's an industry where transactions are all face-to-face based on trust, then they may not be Googling a lot, and there may not be as much of the same value in doing SEO. So that's always something that you need to be keeping an eye out for. You may not find a ton of keywords with a lot of valuable search volume. And the last step here is to validate the search intent of each keyword by plugging them into Google and actually making sure that this is relevant for you. Because there are many cases where the words all look right to you, and you're bringing in this bias of, I'm coming from the snowboarding world, and this is totally a term we use in snowboarding, and 3,000 people per month are searching this term. And then you actually look at the SERP and you realize, oh no, that's just a popular shoe brand. So you need to make sure that it's relevant, and also that people are not looking for like something that you can't provide. If you need to make sure that you're legitimately going to be able to provide the best answer on the internet just with the kind of content that you can create. So to make this a little more concrete, in case you have any confusion about what keywords are, what they look like, or how to use a search tool. This is a screenshot from SEMrush's free keyword magic tool. And even though I use Ahrefs as my paid tool, I will recommend SEMrush's free tool over Ahrefs because they give you a lot more functionality. Eventually, I would say you are going to need to invest in a paid tool if you're doing SEO for yourself. But just to play around with it at the beginning, the SEMrush tool is pretty cool. So these are keywords that it found when I put in the seed phrase. Let me remind myself what I put in. I put in just how to snowboard. So we've got snowboarding, how to ski, snowboarding, with 2 words with a space in it, which, again, you don't need to worry about those small spelling changes anymore. Google, all of the search engines, they know that the intent is exactly the same. How to wax a snowboard, how to choose snowboard size, how to size a snowboard, beginner snowboard, how to measure snowboard size, how to wax snowboard. So you're seeing there's a lot of overlap, a lot of slightly different ways to ask the same question. We've got the intent column is, I don't really recommend paying a lot of attention to that because I think that the tools oversimplify it and that you really need to actually evaluate what is this person actually looking for. Because the I and the C, they stand for informational search or a commercial search. And that feels like that's just not like detailed enough for me. What information are they actually looking for? And at what level are they as a commercial search? Like snowboarding, I'm surprised that one gets tagged as a C anyway, because it's just so broad. Like, is somebody actually ready to buy when they're just searching snowboarding? Probably not. Volume column tells us approximately how many searches per month happen. The default might be either the US or global. It is good to check whether you're looking at US searches or global searches. But it's an approximate number, and it's really most valuable to use to compare to the other numbers within the same tool. Different tools use different estimating calculations, and none of them are particularly accurate in real life. They just tell you relative to each other which keyword is more popular. And then KD is the last really important column. That stands for keyword difficulty, and the numbers that it shows you are a ranking of the competitiveness of a keyword on a scale from 0 to 100. Lower competitive, less competitive keywords are going to be easier for you to win. Okay, so clustering keywords. Like I mentioned, you can cluster content that is similar enough into one keyword so that we don't end up with 50 different articles that are on slight variations of the same phrase. And generally, you're just going to ask yourself whether they logically fit together, or if there are topics that could be fit together, but when you think about it, there's so much to say about each subtopic that it actually deserves its own article. So I can walk you through, let me see if so back to the snowboarding example again. Everything that I've checked off in this list can be safely clustered together in one piece of content that provides a guide to how to size a snowboard, how to buy a snowboard that is the right size for you. So these are queries like snowboard size chart, snowboard size calculator, what size snowboard should I get, snowboard height chart, snowboard length calculator. These are all slightly different ways of saying the same thing. I don't know what size snowboard is right for me. However, the phrase snowboarding gear is not one that I would try to tackle with that same piece of content, because that brings up a whole another world of snowboarding purchases. We could be talking about goggles, helmets, clothes, bindings, boots, all of that. And there's so much to say that that deserves its own unique piece of content. So once you've got your keyword list, you prioritize based on a balance of 3 factors: your revenue impact, the potential revenue impact of a particular piece of content, and winning a particular keyword, the competition, and the volume, search volume. So the keywords that are related to your easiest to sell products or services and that also have relatively low competition are the ones with generally the highest business impact. And I would recommend, even if those keywords have very low search volume, this could be even 10, 30, 50 searches per month. If it is a keyword that is literally describing exactly what you do and it's a service that you sell consistently right away, you barely have to convince people, I would go for that over keywords that have 1,000 searches per month that are not as closely related to actually making a sale, because this is a great way to validate that SEO is a worthwhile investment for you at the beginning, kind of builds confidence among the team, and will lead to a business impact sooner than going after the keywords that have high search volume, which they might improve your search traffic, your organic traffic to your website. But at the end of the day, organic traffic does not pay the bills. And the other thing, I think I kind of already addressed this, but don't try to address short-term business goals with SEO. And don't worry about trying to align your content calendar that is built out of your SEO strategy. Don't try to align it with holidays or anything like that. This is not social media. We do not need to be posting our articles at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday to get the maximum traction. You can post your SEO content at midnight on New Year's Eve, and it will have the same impact, because Google never sleeps. You just need to get it out as soon as possible, and you need to be creating evergreen content that addresses long-term business goals. So we're getting into the content creation steps. And as I gave you a little preview at the beginning, every product or service needs its own page. So a mistake that a lot of people make, especially if they're a solopreneur starting out, is they're just trying to be efficient, and they have one page on their website that says services, and they list the 5 different services that they offer. And that page then has to try to rank for those 5 different terms. And as I've covered before, you can really mostly only rank for one keyword or a cluster of very similar keywords. So break all of those out into their own pages if they're not already, and then make sure that you're choosing an appropriate keyword from your list. You're matching those keywords with the service that you offer. Because again, you're not necessarily going to find an exact match, but there's going to be people who are asking for that service that you offer with the generic terms that they know, and you match that up to your special branded name of your like low stress business strategy, or stress, Zen business strategy or whatever. People are not searching for the Zen business strategy, but they are searching for a business strategy coach or whatever. So with matching search intent, this is if you're ever unsure whether a particular keyword is best for a blog post where you can more conversationally discuss the content versus a landing page where you should really be having kind of sales heavy copy where you are writing all just the benefits of your product and everything. Just look at the current results in Google and see what your competitors are doing. See, it's not even just what your competitors are doing. See what Google is serving up to searchers, because you should match the format of the content that is already ranking. So then, what do you do to optimize your current pages? You're going to expand the content in a lot of cases. A lot of times, with clients that I'm working with, they may have the barest of information on the product page. They've got like 6 bullet points, and they just list the few specifications and like 3 benefits of a product, and that's all they've got. There is lots of room to expand on that. You don't want to just put fluff on there, but if there's any more details that you can share about the product or service in terms of the benefits, the problems that it solves, the use cases or the industries that it's appropriate for, any more specifications about how the thing works or what, the product or the service, any certifications that you have received or that this product has received. And then if there is enough content, it's a great practice right now to add an FAQ section to your product and service pages. This is like the one thing that I'll say about catering to AI. The AI overviews do seem to be pulling disproportionately from FAQ sections right now. And I'll say that that's an acceptable way to cater to AI because I think an FAQ section generally provides a good user experience. If I thought FAQ sections made the internet a worse place, I would say don't do that. And just keep that in mind with everything. If you're like, I really have absolutely nothing to say, no one ever asks anything about this product, then don't put an FAQ section. Don't lie. It is frequently asked questions. Okay, so after you have made sure that all of your product, all those landing pages under your services or your products page or whatever, that all of those are optimized, that should take out several of the keywords from your initial list that you created. And the rest are probably all good candidates for blog posts. And so then your ongoing strategy will be to just tackle those at a rate that you can sustain for your organization. And if that is 1 blog post a month, that is fine. If that is not even 1 blog post a month, but it's 3 per quarter that you produce in a little sprint, that is also fine. Or if you're going to set aside 2 different periods in a year and you're going to do like 8 blog posts at the beginning of the year and in the middle of the year, you're going to come back to it and do another 8, that is also fine. As I said, there's been an overemphasis on consistent posting as if every single website was a viral podcast that you had to, but not even a podcast because we can get podcasts synchronously, as if it was some viral broadcast that could only be captured and listened to if you showed up in person, like a meeting like this. And that's just not how the internet works. It's great for asynchronous communication. So you don't really have to worry about the timing and the cadence as long as you are building systems for yourself to sustainably keep creating new content at some kind of cadence. So I'll just say a few things about the content that you're creating. The first thing is, of course, match the search intent. And that's where you're putting yourself in the mind of the real human on the other side of the data that you're looking at. And you're asking what information were they trying to find. And you're reading the competition and you're seeing what are the questions that they didn't answer. If I had this question and I read the top 5 blog posts, would I still be really frustrated that no one is telling me how much it's going to cost to renovate my kitchen? Or how much it's going to cost to get into snowboarding? Or how much it costs to take a trip? Cost, a lot of companies don't really want to talk about the cost. So that's usually an easy option. If you're willing to, or if you have those insights and you can actually tell people how much something costs, that could be a great way to add insight. But there's always stuff that the content team at your competitors was too lazy to go and find the answers to, or their risk department was like, oh, we can't guarantee that, so strike that whole paragraph. And if you can be a little bit more bold and say something that others weren't willing to say, or just put in the time to find the answers, you can add value to the internet, and that is what will make your content rise to the top. And additionally, the incredibly important thing is that your content needs to boost your credibility. That is my beef with some of the traditional SEO approaches in the past, is that they've created some really thin, not authoritative content that really just remixed what was already on the internet and then put it onto your website. And if that's what you're doing, you're not likely to rise to the top because you're not providing people anything that is better than what they were able to find anywhere else. And again, you're not going to make them trust your brand more. And that's like the whole thing with content marketing. And there's been a weird divide where people thought that SEO was something different from content marketing, but they are completely unified strategies, and every piece of content that you're putting out should first and foremost boost your credibility, and really the second, be optimized to perform well in organic search. So that's the other point that I'm trying to make here is be credible and look for opportunities to make your content do double duty for you, especially if you are just starting out. There may be big gaps in the information that you have provided to your sales team. They could be really needing like a detailed comparison of how your product compares to your biggest competitors, or how your service is different from other default options. Those pieces can perform really well in search, but they can also be a great resource that your sales team can email to clients after a meeting or leave with them in person. So look for opportunities to make those SEO pieces do double duty. And again, if you wrote the piece and you're like, well, I wouldn't really want to give this to someone at the end of a sales meeting, then that's a big red flag that it's probably not going to perform well for SEO anyway, but you shouldn't be creating pieces that you're not proud of. It is going on your website, it is representing your brand. You need to make sure that it meets your quality standards. I'm not going to go into on-page SEO, but it's absolutely important. This is where you actually make sure that your target keyword appears in all of the right places. They are front-end places. This is not the secret list that my client thought existed. This is the URL slug, which is all the words that come after your domain name. This is appearing in the title, appearing in the meta description. It's all these places. And it's also a big part of on-page SEO is using header styles to organize your content in a logical way and not using header styles as aesthetic choices. So this header styles, we're talking about the heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. In any word processor, you can use these to make your content bigger, but it is not the same as just changing the font size. And it sends signals to Google about what is the most important information on your page. So if you wanted to just add some emphasis in the middle of your page and you wanted to say, bam, in all caps, that is not something you should be putting into a header style. It's not just like a shortcut to get really big text, because then Google would think that this entire page is about bam. So anyway, just a warning, I've seen designers even who didn't like to use the H1 style because it's so big. And you have control over how big it appears if you go into the CSS style sheets and you can change those things. Yes, that takes a little bit more developer skill. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then make a note that that's something you should talk to a developer about. But it's not a limitation, and it's not like, oh, she told me I have to use H1, but it makes my website look so ugly. There's a solution for that. But it's important to understand that these are not just aesthetic choices. So, like I said, aim for 10 to 20 pieces of content per year, and it is totally worth investing in SEO if all you can manage is that 10. Those are 10 gold mine pieces of content that are foundational, boost your brand, and they're useful for other things. Having them out there, especially if you're a young company, get those out there early. You may not have much time to come back to this for like 3 or 4 years, but that content can be out there gathering links and boosting your brand all of that time. And it's better to have it now than to start in 5 years when you have all this money and you have nothing built, no foundation to build off of. And I think I've kind of covered all of those. And of course, yeah, if you have the capacity to write more, once you get into it and you find you really like doing this, or you find that your sales team is loving it, give us more. You direct more resources to it. Yes, more is better as long as the quality stays the same. And then link building. So I just want to discuss this. I think I forgot to discuss it on the content creation. So when you're creating new content, building internal links should always be part of your process. And this is anytime you're mentioning your products, you should be linking back to those product pages. Anytime you mention something that you've gone into more depth about in another blog post, link to that. So as you create new content, you'll be linking back to your old content. But every 6 months or so, it's great to have like a little internal link building party where you go back to the old content and add links to the new content, because when you first created that content, that new content didn't exist for you to link to. So all of that interlinking, it helps real people navigate your website and find useful content that you've shared, but it also helps Google understand how all of your content fits together, and it helps Google believe that you're a credible source on one topic, because it proves that you have also written about many other topics that are closely related to it. And having like a body of work to show for yourself is more impactful than just one article that just says like, I'm an expert in snowboarding, and then I'm also an expert in concrete and jet skis. These things have nothing to do with each other, and Google's going to say, I don't know, I think this person just goes after easy keywords and they don't actually know what they're talking about. Whereas if you have 15 different articles about all the different little aspects of snowboarding, you look like an expert in snowboarding. For external links are much harder to get than internal links. With internal links, you control everything and it's a simple process. External, they are definitely valuable, but if you're just taking this minimum viable approach and you're trying to build a foundation, hopefully I'm going to give you a sigh of relief that I'm going to say, I'm going to let you off the hook on external links. They're still great, and if you can get them through other things that you're already doing, like if you're doing a speaking engagement, then yes, absolutely get those links. Put yourself out there through the things that you are already doing. If you belong to an association, for example, I joined the LGBTQ Chamber of Wisconsin, and they gave me a link back from their directory. That's great, and you have to pay for that, but I didn't do it for the link. I did it for the chamber membership. So again, that would be an expensive link. You have to renew it every year. And so that's not why you're doing it, but it's great to get those. And if you've got time, you can consider playing around with, there are a whole bunch of different sites right now that are places where you can create a profile and then you can look for these opportunities to add quotes to articles that are getting published. So featured.com, quoted with a W, I hate it. Help a B2B writer. And I'm not going to say that it's going to be life-changing, but you may get a few quotes. And if it's something that you like doing, and if answering questions about your business is something that like is almost like a good journaling exercise for you, or helps you like clarify your thoughts, or maybe it's a prompt that you're like, I answered that question and now I'm going to put it on my LinkedIn because it's just a great little piece of content that I can share, then sure, I would recommend putting your time into that. But it's not going to be a make or break. These are all kind of add-ons, in addition to all of that other content work that you've been doing. And that's what I've got. That's my link. I'd love to take questions if there are any.
Let's do this for you.
Both.
Yeah, just open that.
Okay. This is good. Hi, thanks so much for personifying the way that Google works. That really helped me understand how the SEO engine kind of finds you. If you could personify one more time, for my own use, I include links on my blog posts to other websites. Is that a bad thing to do? Is it, how does Google view that if we're personifying Google?
Sure, yeah. Do you want me to use the mic?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question was about linking out to, well, yeah, you had the mic, so I don't have to repeat it. But so for linking out to other websites, that Google generally just looks for whether you have failed to link out to websites that everyone else is linking to. That could be a sign that you're not meeting some credibility standard. It's not a huge like make or break ranking factor, but in some industries, say in the healthcare world, if you're like WebMD and you're answering the question and people are Googling and they want to know if they have cancer, Google, the people at Google know that this is an area that emotions run high and real harm could come from misleading information, and that linking to credible sources like government websites that actually share verified information, that is a best practice and where you should be directing questions. So those are some areas where it's like, I obviously don't have the expertise to be answering this question. I'm going to link you out. That's a place where you really need to be sharing those links. And other times, just let your intuition be your guide. If it's a topic that you know that people would find value out of, like for example, on my website, I have articles about SEO, and I have not yet created an on-page SEO guide. But I know that this is likely something that people have questions about when they're reading my content, and for them to understand my own content better, they may need some of that foundational knowledge. So I link out to Ahrefs' website. They have a great guide. And one of these days, I might create my own, and then I would go back and try to change those links to internal links. But for now, it's not hurting any. It's not hurting you. Now, of course, if you link out to a really bad website, one that is stealing people's information, that will hurt you. So don't do that.
Can you talk, you mentioned this earlier, but can you talk a little bit about the dangers of competing with yourself for keywords? I know like there are times where I'm a different kind of blogger. I do it for SEO, but also for like more branding and things like that. But there are times where I'll have two pretty well done blog posts and I see that they're like, they've edged each other out because they're both around the same topic. And I don't know how to continue talking about something. I like have to worry about keywords in that regard. That makes sense.
Yeah, so the question is really about the cannibalization problem. So if one way to address it is if you have new about a topic, you can update your old content rather than writing something new. And you can change the date and you can say, these are my thoughts from 2025 rather than 2024. If you really feel like they're distinct topics and you really like what you had before and you don't want to overwrite it, and then they're showing up, both of them for the same keyword, I think I would probably not really mess with that, especially if you're actually getting traffic and they're showing up. The thing that you don't do is what one of my clients has been doing for years, where they had a content calendar where they have 42 products and they were like, well, we need to write about every product every year. And they just went through them systematically. And every year they didn't really have anything new to say. So they put out a new 300-word article that says the same thing as the last year, but in different words. And all of these articles, Google looks at them and it says, I don't know which one to pick. They're all bad. Which would also be the same question if they were all good, but it would just be like, I don't know which one to pick. Maybe I'm going to go to another website where there is a more obvious best answer. So yeah, does that answer your question, or do you have?
Yeah, I just think there are times like where you're hitting keywords that are like, if they're general enough, or like if you're not doing like that deep dive, like not just the product, but yes, I think you answered my question.
Yeah, I mean, I would also I'll just say a keyword like snowboarding has like 36,000 searches per month. And if you just look at that on the face of it, you kind of think that what that tells you is that like 36 individual people are just like walking along one day and then they're like, oh my God, snowboarding, what is that? And I don't think that that's actually happening. It's just that the word snowboarding is appearing, it's like the common denominator of 36,000 searches. And then as you add more words to it, it's like, well, there are fewer searches that use all of those words. So that's an important thing to remember as well. It's like the keywords, they are not necessarily literally what is happening, but they tell you information about what people know and what they want to know more about.
So you touched on this already a little bit, but can you talk more about generative engine optimization, or AIO, or whatever term you want to call it? I know that FAQs and just good content in general are going to optimize it, but is there any other strategies you could mention?
Yeah, in general, if you're hearing people saying you have to write your content differently for AI, what that tells me is they weren't writing good content before AI came along. They were trying to win based on more of the trick side of things. So that is my general perspective, and it's been proven over. Every study that I've seen has shown that people who are creating really good content, the changes are making their content show up in AI overviews. But the FAQs do help, and I think the reason why FAQs help is because the AI overviews are trying to give you an answer in one short paragraph, and an FAQ is a place where you answer a question in a short paragraph. So it's kind of already teed up for AI. And so you can kind of apply that elsewhere in your content, just thinking about having slightly more bite-sized information or breaking it up into maybe more headings, more sections, making it more scannable. And really all of this is what I've been doing all along anyway. So it's just becoming kind of more important. It's another tool that is interacting with the information. It's like it's interacting with it more the way that humans do. They're looking, they're scanning, they're trying to find a quick answer. So make
Other question?
I know you had talked a little bit about the importance of doing some competitor analysis when it comes to the SEO of your competitors. Since I'm in a relatively niche search industry, I know some of that can be done manually by just making that Google search and seeing where everyone ranks. But would you recommend tools like SpyFu or other kind of services that allow you to kind of see what your competitors are doing with SEO?
Yeah, I definitely recommend using the tools. My tool of choice is Ahrefs for this. So that's where I was saying you take the URL and see if I can just pull it up. So you go into the Site Explorer. It wants me to sign in. So we could put in your competitor's URL here if you do have one in mind. Ooh, interesting. .com, hopefully. We'll see. Yeah, so they rank organically for 1,000 keywords. And we're going to see what those keywords are. A lot of them are doula in Chicago, midwife Chicago. But here's one that they've clearly done some content marketing around, providing education on rocking the baby. And so you could be like, ooh, we could write some content about rocking the baby. I wonder, sorry, I did the wrong thing. I think possibly because I'm trying to project on the screen. You can find out through the tools, and there's tutorials about how them. You can figure out which of their blog posts or product pages is ranking for rocking the baby. And they're ranking, they're in position 2. So they're doing pretty well. So already you've got an idea. Maybe we should put out a guide on how to safely rock a baby. And then if you have further questions, you can use the links in here. They will take you to the exact piece of content that is ranking for them. And you can figure out, was this a blog post? Was this a video? Or what are they doing to rank for that one?
We have 2 online. Is there anybody else? What is the appropriate image size threshold so Google doesn't reprimand your site? Is it a minute per site?
I would say each image needs to be optimized. And we're getting a little bit out of my depth. I would probably refer to my own technical partners on the question of is there a point at which you're adding too many images? I do think that just thinking about the user experience and what the limitations of the format you're publishing in will kind of guide you. If you only are able to publish into a blog that is just going to be a long scrolling piece that just has text and then pictures and text, then publishing 100 photos, that's probably not the best way to do that. So you might need to find a different way to a module in your website, in your CMS that is built for handling 100 photos. And then with that, it's probably uploading them in a way, and you should have guidelines that should help you avoid making the page size too large.
And then there's another one. how do you feel about Moz.com compared to Ahrefs or SEM?
I personally haven't used Moz.com, but I read their blogs and I think that they are a credible SEO organization. So tool that you like using, keep using it.
Any other questions?
All good. Thanks for those good questions.
Wait, one more slide. Yeah, I'll just leave there. Follow us on social. We're on all of them pretty much. You get regular updates. We also have a newsletter, and then there will be a recap blog and a linked video of this event to go back that will also provide Olivia's slides. Just check that out at smbmad.org. And then there are also flyers on the chairs of the upcoming 3 events, the QR codes, show amongst there. I've made these, they're very pretty. The awards, the nonprofit audit, and then happy hour happening next week. So all that information handed in the pamphlet. Thank you all for coming.